Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Genuinely Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome. I hope you're well and about to enjoy a nice long another bank holiday weekend. We've got so many of them. If you are in your early stages of ditching the booze, make sure long holidays don't trip you up. I've had a few messages from people who, kind of suddenly realised it's a bank holiday weekend, and it's amazing how that triggers something in our unconscious mind that says, oh, that must mean, we go out and drink copious amounts of alcohol if it's a long weekend. So make sure you do your prep. You know the usuals. If you're early stages, it really is all about putting that preparation in and changing your mindset. We're at week 2 of our accountability program for a bunch of people that I'm working with, and it's amazing to see how inventive people are when they've just really grasped this non-negotiable piece. Okay, let's just do this, and they've made their commitment, they've set their intention. Then it's really great how people come up with inventive ways of tricking their own brain, because you don't have to do that to start with. You actually have to retrain your own brain. So maybe I'll share a few of those tips later on. This week is all about bigging up the podcast, because you might have seen my social media post that I clicked on to the kind of platform that I pay for to upload the podcast, and there it was, 1 million downloads. It's wow. I'm so pleased. I'm just so chuffed that the podcast is still rocking. And I mean, come on, I know it's no Joe Rogan, right? It's no Russell Brand. It's not even Rangan Chatterjee. But this podcast is just me, as you all know. It's just me and my little labour of love, and my son editing a bit for me. So I am proud of it. I haven't had a week off in whatever it is, however many years I've been doing it. 2.5 years. So I'm really hugely grateful to you guys who listen and share it and tell your friends and send me messages and review it, because that makes a massive difference as well. So I thought, to celebrate 1 million, actually it's 1.1. Oh, that makes a difference. To celebrate 1.1 million downloads, I thought I'd just pop through a few archive podcasts and bring back a few clips. There's no particular reason or rhyme for this, because, obviously every podcast I think has been great. I've had some amazing guests, really amazing. And I think that's what makes this so very special. There's no way I could have done this and kept up the interest week after week, unless I had access to amazing people who were willing to give me their time. And so, I'm hugely grateful. I've just picked out a bunch kind of fairly randomly, and we'll play a little clip. And if it's one that you've heard before, it'll be interesting to know whether you catch something new this time or whether you just get reminded. And if you haven't heard these clips before, hopefully it will inspire you to go back and listen to the full podcast. As you know, if you go to thesoberclub.com and click podcast, you can scroll down through all of the episodes, or obviously you can do the same on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. So this is a kind of a bit of a big myself and the podcast up week. I hope that's okay with you. And just a reminder of a couple of dates as well. We've got our first Sober by the Sea is sold out, so that one's kind of done and dusted. And then we've got another Sober by the Sea coming up on Saturday, June the 11th. Yeah, June the 11th is Sober by the Sea in Southend. And then what else have we got coming up? Oh, there's a Champneys coming up in June. The date has changed. So anyone who's been looking at the Champneys date, it's changed slightly. It's now Sunday into Monday. So it's 26th, 27th. I don't know if that's going to fly, but we're going to give it a go. So that's at Tring in Hertfordshire. And we are booking another family constellations date as we speak. We'll get that in the diary very soon. Had an amazing weekend, by the way, with our sober coaches. Oh, man, what an amazing, amazing group of people who are so inspiring and so ready to share their fabulous stories with the world. So the more people that spread this message, it's fantastic. Anyway, so first off, I thought it would be great to bring you a clip with one of my oldest mates and someone who really, very much changed my life many, many years ago, probably, 20 years ago, something like that. We're talking Jason Vale, and very timely to run a piece by Jason because his documentary is out tomorrow, his new documentary. Some of you might have seen Super Juice Me from, I don't know, was that 8 years ago or something, 7 years ago? And he's done a kind of a follow-up where he actually had a taste of his own medicine, as it were. So, and it's launched on this Sunday on YouTube. So very timely to bring the lovely Jason into the picture. So enjoy the clip. But what you said at the beginning, of this interview where you said, all addiction transcends knowledge and intelligence, that's such a powerful statement. You're so absolutely right because, I considered myself a health and well-being guru, across everything, me, allegedly, but not the alcohol piece because it's an illusion. We've all, so many people have bought into this illusion. And I was skirting around this bloody great big elephant in the room. Would you agree that, obviously with Kick the Drink Easily, what you've done in that book is explain the mindset. You've explained to us how we can get our brains thinking differently. And do you think that really is the key?
I think beyond anything else, I think addiction lies in the mind because it's not really a physical thing. And gambling teaches us this. So when somebody stops gambling and they're a severe gambler, they will suffer, quote unquote, the same physical withdrawal as somebody coming off of cigarettes or alcohol or any other drug.
Yeah.
And you know why that is? Because it's not a physical withdrawal, it's anxiety and fear.
Yeah, exactly.
So anxiety and fear create a physical response. Yeah. So if you believe that you cannot enjoy your life or cope with your life without what you deem to be your friend, crutch, or pleasure, fear will come into. And I always say to somebody, look, if you want to know if you're hooked on something or not, this is my definition, and I'm yet to be properly challenged on it, I would say, is it doesn't matter if it's sugar, alcohol, anything else. You ask yourself, if the thought of never doing it again fills me with an abnormal fear, well, then you're hooked. I'm sorry to say that's how to realize.
Yeah.
So if, for example, somebody genuinely does have a couple of glasses of wine on a Saturday night, over dinner, this, that, and the other, and genuinely doesn't think about it during the week, and it genuinely doesn't bother them. The relationship they have with alcohol, I would say alcohol's never moved in and abused them, right? They've never moved in house. They live separately.
Yeah, they have an off switch. They can.
It's like any relationship. Like alcohol lives down the road. You've got no real desire to see them. Like you barely know them, and actually they might nip over every now and then. But they don't overstay their welcome. And there are some people that fall into that category. That if the thought of never doing it again fills you with fear, and they go, no, I'll just knock it on the head, right? Now, they are few and far between. You and I both know that, right? That's not the majority of people, right? But they do exist in the same way there are some people that have the odd cigarette. I don't know how they do that. I mean, God, if I had to have another cigarette, I'd probably be on 40, 60 a day again, right? Because this thing just gets into you, not because it transcends logic and intelligence. It's fear. If I said to somebody who's covered in psoriasis, and they're overweight, and they've got eczema, and they've got asthma, and they've got all these ailments, and I said, well, I found the problem is you've got to stop eating blueberries, right? Well, nobody would create fear. And blueberries are nice. I've yet to find somebody who doesn't like a blueberry. So it's not a case of liking something. It's not what it comes down to is something emotive.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
normal food, as in that doesn't contain refined fat, salt, and sugar. Because people say, oh, I eat as a response to emotion. And I say, no, you don't. And they argue with me. And I go, well, you don't. You eat certain things as a response to emotion, as we all do. So, because I've never heard anybody go, I've had a really bad day, I'm really pissed off, I need a grape. I've never heard it in my life. It doesn't happen.
And
there's no such
broccoli.
well, there's no such thing as broccoli anonymous. There's no such thing as banana anonymous.
Yeah.
Because they don't exist. So therefore, we've got to really look at this and go, well, is it a personality-driven trait then? Or is it a substance? Well, it's a combination of the two, but it's not personality-driven. It's substance-driven. Then the personality comes into it. But it has to be the substance first. We will all sink in the quicksand at different rates. But ask yourself the question when it comes to alcohol or anything else, if the thought of never doing it again, you future pace. Oh, but what about weddings? What about christenings? What about this? Oh my God. And you literally start to freaking shake. Well, then clearly you're hooked.
As you know, I was very proud to release my own book, Happy, Healthy, Sober, Ditch the Booze and Take Control of Your Life. I think it's been out almost a year, actually, amazingly. It's never a great time to bring out a book in lockdown, but, it's done all right. And, of course, it's still selling. So if you haven't got it yet, there's my little plug, including the audio book, which is out now. And, of course, I'm eternally grateful to Denise Welch. If you're not in the UK, you don't know who Denise Welch is. She's a hugely successful actress, and she's been in many very famous things in the UK, not least some soap operas. She's a real character, and she's been so open about her own struggles with mental health issues, with depression, and her own issues with alcohol. She's really helped a huge number of people, I think, by just bringing this stuff right out into the mainstream. So Denise wrote the foreword for my book, and I'm hugely grateful to her for that. But I've also had her as a podcast guest. So here's a clip with Denise.
I just wonder whether you can give us any, and this sounds very flippant in the light of everything we've spoken about, but what would you suggest that people do who do suffer from depression on whatever level? Are there some things that you would recommend people putting in place? What are the strategies that everyone can do? I mean, does walking in nature make a difference? Does the right nutrition make a difference? What about exercise? Are there any of those lifestyle things that can help?
All of those things are things that we should all be doing.
Yeah.
And those things help, I think, how long the unwelcome visitor stays.
Okay.
However, once depression is in, there is no amount of talking, walking, eating, that's gone. What you have to do is my book is called Depression and How I Survive It. And it's about surviving surviving the visits and loving the times in between. So in the good times in between, try to eat well and try to get, even if it's just a walk, and if you are a sufferer, try to take alcohol out of your life if you can. It is the most wonderful life without alcohol.
Yeah.
I know I had Lincoln, and I do know that is easier with somebody. The other thing is, when I was first poorly, there was nothing, as I say, except paragraphs like this in magazines. Now we have Google, and we can Google depression help, and there will be a group, a support group, a community, a person, because I know that getting professional help sometimes in the mental health system is hard, and now harder, but there will be somebody who will listen. And if you find that your GP or your family don't, look further afield.
Yeah.
Please don't think that you have anything to do with getting this illness. It's an illness like any other, and the unwelcome visitor always leaves.
The lovely Denise Welch. And thanks again, Denise, for doing the foreword for the book. And I'm sure you've heard me mention so many times how much I love my Quit Lit, and how, in the early stages, it was a lifeline for me. It really was, immersing myself in that, stuff in the books that just gave me optimism, that just gave me hope. The memoirs, which were sometimes hard hitting, and then just being able to sort of catch sight of that better life. And I think that's what it's all about, really. I was mentioning that I'm in the middle of or just started an accountability program with a group of clients, and really so much of the conversation that we've been having is around how do we hold on to the commitment that we've made. And partly it's the logic, so partly it's knowing that alcohol is really bad for you, we need to really know it in our gut. This is where, Annie Grace and William Porter are so brilliant, because they've really nailed that piece. And William's written something in my book as well. So, they've really nailed that logic piece, that why alcohol is so unbelievably bad for us. Let's not sugarcoat it ever. So that piece is really good for our commitment. But of course, perhaps even more important than that is the emotional side of it. So it's the motivation, because ultimately, if we don't feel that we're doing the right thing for us at the time, we'll just, cave and take a drink, irrespective of what we know logically, because that phrase, emotions, not logic, will inspire action. So we have to get the logic and the emotional piece working together. And one of the best ways to do that is to just have a vision, have a goal, have something you're aiming towards, and really be able to see yourself in this fabulous new way. How amazing is your life going to be, when you've ditched the booze? And one of the members of our group has got herself a little sticker chart, and she's planning all of these rewards, healthy self-care treats for herself, when she reaches certain milestones, and really being able to visualize what life's going to be like as you move forward. Because, there sure has been some amazing transformations. I've mentioned it so many times, but in the Sober Club, there's just been people who have done things they never would have even dream that they could do. It was a distant dream that they were going to start a business or travel or move to a different part of the country or move abroad or whatever it is, in their life. Just stuff that they didn't have the mojo, didn't have the energy to do before. But once you've ditched the booze, it frees up time and it makes you feel so much clearer. And, it's that piece of starting to like yourself a little bit. That makes, all the difference in the world. Anyways, where was I? Yeah. So, as I say, Quit Lit books made a massive difference to me. After Claire Pooley's book, the next one I read was The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober by Catherine Gray. I mean, worth it for the name alone. Man, what a title. And I really have come to discover, the unexpected joy. I really have. I don't think I ever used to appreciate little things before. So The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober was just a game changer, I think, for so many people. And then I read Catherine's next book, The Unexpected Joy of Being Single, and then The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary, all fantastic books. She's just such a beautiful writer. So I was really chuffed to get to interview Catherine.
That's of course not to say that we don't get the munchies for sugar in the early weeks, some of us, and we do start doing other things, but that doesn't mean that that's going to happen forever. I think it's a case of, as you said, I love the way you described the fact that you're a toddler in those early weeks and months. You really are finding your feet. And of course, you're going to have extra time on your hands and not know what to do with yourself. And your chemical, the neurochemicals are all over the shop. So of course, you're going to reach for sugar or whatever. But over time, and that's what's so lovely about, your book, you're throwing this forward in time. So you're being really realistic about how things pan out when you feel just so much more stable. I think that's a word that so often comes up for me. I'm so much more stable than I was.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel safe. That was a key theme in the book, that I finally feel safe within myself and in my relationships and from alcohol. And it's just such a luxurious place to find myself.
Yeah,
so
there's a little section on boundaries, isn't there, which is great.
Yeah, boundaries. Oh my gosh, I don't know what your relationship's been like with boundaries.
Oh, but terrible in the past. Terrible.
Yeah, I literally only learned how to do them about 2 years ago.
I actually thought that setting boundaries meant you were just a really arsey person.
Yeah, me too. I would bitch about people who set boundaries with me. I'd be like, how dare they say no to my unreasonable request? How dare they not reply to my unsolicited email asking them for a favour? It just is. But the thing is, it's very common that people who don't have boundaries themselves, so I was very much the type that would pretty much do anything you asked me to do if you asked me to do it. They are the people who expect other people to say yes to everything. So it's the boundaryless who get irate when we set boundaries with them. So I think that's important to remember, to have that compassion because it's just that they're not there yet, and they don't know what boundaries are, and they don't know that they're healthy. Now when people say no to me, I literally feel like high-fiving them.
Yes.
Like, nice boundaries. And you can tell when somebody is when they've really gone through this process, and that they're healthy and secure and in all of this too, because they will respond to your no with, oh my God, absolutely no worries, just thought I'd ask, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know that it's not damaged the relationship, and they're not going away to have a bitching session about you because you said no.
Yeah, totally.
But it's so important in recovery, or whatever you call it, in staying sober, I've found, because if you don't set boundaries, you become cannibalized with resentment over time, because your energy and your day and your effort and your work schedule is not your own. You just give it to other people all the time. And so then you don't have enough time for yourself, or time to rest, or money, or whatever it is that you need, because you're just giving it away all the time.
Yeah.
And obviously give away some of it, give away maybe half of it, but keep enough for yourself.
Well, self-care is just the thing we have to learn. I mean, I had no idea what it meant till I got sober. Self-care is like those rich women that go to spas and lunch the whole time. I had no idea what it meant. For me, my self-care was a glass of wine. So I had no idea what it really meant.
Oh my God, I really identify with that. And I wonder if it's something that the younger generations are just much more au fait with. They've often been parented in a way where a no isn't the worst thing you can say to a parent.
I think that's true.
Yeah, so I was definitely parented in the way that you did not say no to superior, people in your family, and you did not say no to work colleagues either, because I was in a very competitive industry like you. So you just had to say yes to everything to A, get people to like you, continue to like you, and B, get ahead.
Yeah.
And so I just carried this one way too far, and it's something that I still struggle with to this day.
Thank you, Catherine. And then bringing us sort of fairly up to date, an interview that I did not too long ago is with Dr. David Hamilton. Now, I've known David for so many years. He's a fellow Hay House author. I've heard him speak. We've been on the same bill a lot of times. I love what he does, and this new book particularly, Why Woo Woo Works, it's just fabulous that it actually reveals the scientific piece, because it is really easy to just dismiss anything that you don't quite understand as woo-woo and nonsense. But usually it's exactly that. It's just because you don't really understand it. And as most of you know, in the Sober Club, I love introducing a bit of woo-woo. We do have all the kind of practical stuff in there. There's huge amounts of stuff around nutrition and fitness and mindset and meditation and well-being, and obviously the nitty-gritty of actually ditching the booze and staying sober and finding your purpose and being creative. But then there's also what some people would call totally woo-woo stuff. I bring in an angel expert, Beverly Densham, who's going to be a guest on the podcast, by the way. Joe Soley has done stuff on numerology for us. I had Yakov Darling Khan doing a fabulous movement meditation. We've got lots of amazing meditations. I'm going to be bringing in someone to talk about crystals. So I'm fully immersed in the woo-woo, but it's just great to have David explain a bit of this to us. So I thought you might enjoy hearing another clip. So before we get into the book, just give us a little bit of your kind of potted history for anyone who hasn't come across your work.
Yeah, I worked as an R&D scientist in a really big pharmaceutical company, really building drugs for heart disease and cancer. I say building drugs. I was what you call an organic chemist, which is like an adult who plays Lego. But instead of using, plastic building blocks to assemble a variety of shapes, you use atomic building blocks. But the idea is the same. It's like Lego. And I used to literally build atomically what became, heart medicines and cancer medicines. But I really was more intrigued by the placebo effect. And I started to study it in my spare time when I worked in the industry. At the time, this was, I started working in the pharmaceutical industry in the late 90s, and the mind-body connection was not understood very well at all.
Yeah.
And so when I started to suggest to my colleagues that there could be some mind-body connection that explained the placebo effect, they all used to laugh, call it quackery. I mean, not unkindly, we were all just friends, but the way friends banter, it's all quackery and all that kind of stuff, because nobody understood it. So we just assumed, and this is actually a common theme through all perception of woo-woo. We just assumed, that, or my colleagues assumed, that people who responded to placebo were just going to get better anyway. But I began to research it and realized that there was actually something going on. And it turned out even then, there was lots of available science, but we just didn't know that. And I find, and one of my motivations behind the book is so many people refer to things as woo-woo, sometimes even pseudoscience, not because they're speaking from a position of knowledge and authority, and they can rightly say, that's woo-woo or pseudoscience. Most of the time you find it's because they're not experts at all and actually really don't know that there is available science and there is available philosophical thought. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to the best of my ability, pull a lot of that together and at least give people who do practice these kind of things a wee bit of, backing to say there is a lot of stuff there. And for people who are skeptical to say, look, before you be skeptical, at least look at some of the data and you'll see that maybe, we shouldn't really be calling these things woo-woo after all, because the definition of woo-woo really is unconventional beliefs regarded as having little or no scientific data.
Exactly. It's very derogatory, isn't it?
It's very, very derogatory.
Yeah. And I mean, we're also used to being, sort of laughed at and being called woo-woo. But as you say, there is so much science, behind all of this stuff. Yeah. So where did you kind of start when you were thinking about the book, about what you would include, about, were there aspects of this that came as a bit of a surprise to you when you actually did a bit more digging deep?
Yeah. I mean, I started in what I call the lower end of woo-woo. I go from the lower end to the high end.
Go on then, give us a benchmark. Because I'm probably at all ends.
Yeah, well, me too, actually.
Or at least I have been there over the years. Let's put it that way.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I kind of flip between all three. But the lower end, I call it things like the impact of thoughts and emotions on your brain, on your physiology, placebo effect, meditation, even things like how emotions can, trapped emotion can have an impact by almost storing up charge in the nervous system in the context of trauma, lower end of woo-woo, meaning at least some people are aware that there probably is research, even though most people don't know about it. So I gathered a lot of that. Then moving into things like Reiki and crystals, I call them kind of mid-range and the idea that perception shapes reality and show that there's a heck of a lot of science available, either trial data or at least show why these things might work for us. Moving into the higher end, like psi, ESP, telepathy, prayer, all that kind of stuff, even law of attraction, and sketched a whole basis of science. To answer your question, what was most surprising to me was just how much science there was that could explain how crystals work.
Interesting.
That was, for me, the most surprising. In fact, so much so that it's the biggest chapter. I had to take out about 3. It was too long, and you can't have a chapter that takes longer than an hour to read. For audiobooks, otherwise Audible and other things, they just snap it over into 2 chapters and it spoils the flow. So you're really limited in the number of words. So I literally had to chop off.
So give us a bit more detail on that then. What should we be looking for crystals? What can we all benefit from with crystals?
In terms of crystals, there's actually 3 different ways. Now, first of all, there isn't any scientific studies on crystals because, to be honest, most academics wouldn't touch the subject anyway. That doesn't mean that there's nothing there. They just probably wouldn't touch it for the sake of their careers. I know what that's like. There's certain subject I would have avoided in the past as well for the sake of people, almost ridiculing. And so, but what there is though, is lots of research that would suggest why they might work for us. Let me give you an example of where I'm coming from. So in the Buddhist teaching of Dzogchen, 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 they often use a clear crystal. The teachers use a clear crystal.
Like a quartz crystal?
Like a clear quartz.
Yeah.
So this is a citrine I've got here, but a clear quartz. Now, what the clarity of the quartz does is it serves as what's called a mental representation. Now, in cognitive psychology, that's a really well-known area of research. So by mental representation, what I mean is the teachers of Dzogchen use that as a focal point for the practitioners, and it gives them something to focus on because the clarity of the crystal represents to them the clarity and the clear state of mind and being that one wishes to attain.
Yeah.
So it becomes a focal point, something to focus on. So the moment by holding the crystal, even by having it in your visual field, and you see the clarity of it, your mind becomes less muddled and fudgy because you keep looking at it and seeing it, and that reminds you, I have to attain a clear state of being. So it's like a constant reminder. Now, common sense tells you having a constant reminder of a goal is going to help you achieve that goal.
So there you go. That concludes the clips. As I say, if you haven't heard those podcasts, go back and listen to the full versions. And as you scroll through the archives, you'll see some great episodes. It's worth. I think actually one woman in the Sober Club said she was doing one a day for however long that took. So it's quite a lot of days. But I really hope you enjoy it. So once again, 1.1 million downloads. It's a big deal for me. It honestly is, because we don't have a producer or a company behind this. It's very much a labour of love, and I massively appreciate you listening and sharing and rating it and reviewing it, which if you haven't already, pop onto wherever you listen and just leave it, leave me a review. If you've got any suggestions for guests for the future, that would be amazing. Please drop me a message. Let me know who you'd like me to interview, and I'll do my best to get them on the pod. And don't forget that date, 11th of June, Saturday 11th of June for the next Sober by the Sea. End of June for the Champneys at Tring. There could be another couple of dates slotted in as well, because I think one of our sober coaches is hoping to host an event in Suffolk, which will also be around that same weekend in June. And we're going to put in place a family constellation. So hopefully you got a little bit of free space in the diary, because, you can't beat the power of connection. And if you're not already a member, check out the Sober Club. It's thesoberclub.com. Once again, thank you so much for listening and for being a cheerleader for this podcast. It really means a lot. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.